Indiana Senator Todd Young breaks from former President Trump after his live town hall and says he won't support him in the GOP primary because of his comments about Ukraine. But will other Republicans follow suit? We'll talk one-on-one with Congresswoman Victoria Spartz and U.S. Attorney Zachary Myers on the fight against fentanyl. It's all ahead right now on this week's edition of In Focus. Thanks so much for joining us. Big news this week in Washington after CNN's town hall with former President Trump. Indiana Senator Todd Young says he won't support the former president in his quest to be the Republican nominee in 2024. Speaking with reporters Thursday, Senator Young listed several factors as to why he won't be backing the former president, including former President Trump's lack of vocal support for Ukraine during that CNN town hall on Wednesday night. Senator Young also telling the Huffington Post he doesn't believe Trump can win the election. He's quoted as saying he just consistently loses. In fact, he has a habit of losing not just his own elections, but losing elections for others, adding, I don't think conservatives would be well served by electing someone whose core competency seems to be owning someone on Twitter. Now, while Senator Young said he wouldn't support Trump for the party's nomination, he didn't directly address whether or not he would support the former president if he again becomes the Republican nominee. We reached out to Senator Young's office. They said he was unavailable for additional comment this week. But we did speak Thursday with Congresswoman Victoria Spartz, who's decided not to run for re-election. Thursday, our Kristen Eskow asked her about the former president's remarks on Ukraine during that CNN town hall.
Former President Trump also during that town hall this week wouldn't say whether he wants Ukraine or Russia to win the war in Ukraine. As someone from Ukraine, what was your reaction to that?
Well, listen, I mean, Ukraine is going to win that war. And ultimately, there are a lot of different things, that we can talk. But I will tell you one thing, that under President Biden, Putin didn't attack Ukraine, and Putin did attack Ukraine under President Trump. He didn't, and under President Biden they did, and President Biden been dragging his feet, and I think that escalated the war. So I think if we want to end this war, which all of us want to do, that we need to be more decisive and proactive, and we need to have faster with security assistance so this doesn't escalate further. Because it costs a lot of money, but it also costs a lot of lives to Ukrainian people.
Should President Trump have voiced more support for Ukraine?
President Trump, I mean, there are a lot of people that say, but he's not president right now. When he was president, he was very clear with Putin that you do not attack Ukraine under my watch, and Putin didn't. So let's judge at what he did, not what he said. And he was the only one and the first one before, any Republican and Democrats actually give Ukrainian, lethal aid and weapons. President Obama gave them blankets. So let's just look at, he's the one who was forcing Europe to provide, more support to NATO, and including Germany. He was the one who was forcing Germany to become more energy independent from Russia. He's the one who forced Ukraine not sell assets to China. So let's talk about what's happened and actions. And on his action, he was pretty good. If he becomes next president, we'll judge him on his action. But I don't care about political talk. There is a lot of politics and talk. I care about results and actions.
Should former President Trump be the party's nominee in 2024?
Listen, I think it's up to, American people and our primary voters. I think he has a good chance. We have also good competition, and we have a good bench. So we have a lot of good people. But ultimately, he has a very good track record. So he, track record and his policies is very strong. So he potentially could be.
I also want to ask you about immigration, since Title 42 is coming to an end. You immigrated to the U.S. yourself. What do you think is the best kind of policy to replace Title 42?
Well, I think the best policy for us, for our national security, to actually, secure the border, make sure that we do not create national security risk, that we actually do not incentivize illegal immigration and cartels making money on desperate people, but have better legal immigration faster, because it's very difficult to immigrate to our country legally. And illegally, it's much faster, but also puts a lot of human lives at risk. inside the country, and the same for a lot of these migrants. They become, owned by cartel. We have drug trafficking, human trafficking, child trafficking, and I think it's a very serious problem.
Finally, this is the first time we've talked since you announced you're not seeking re-election. What factored into your decision-making on that, and do you think you will ever run for office again?
Listen, I think it's always good to step back, regroup, reinvigorate, get some sanity back. And, I have spent a little bit of time dealing with my family and businesses, but also good to just kind of not to be here for too long and take some breaks from politics and being in office actively, because, we have a lot of things happening in Washington, D.C. that's very unhealthy. And if you are not getting out of it from time to time, you lose agility and strength. And I think, it's important for us to keep that common sense. And it also gives me an opportunity to next, year and a half to concentrate on some big issues to help Republicans to succeed and hopefully find a common ground, even in the bipartisan basis, since I don't have to worry about fundraising. It gives me more time to do that.
Will you endorse anyone in the GOP primary to replace you?
Well, I don't think it's a good idea, just because I don't believe in kings and queens and successors. So I think, that's up to the people to decide who they want to. I think we'll have choices, and I think the voters should be deciding, but I don't think someone who live in the office should be deciding or really, recommending someone. This is up to the people, and everyone should make their case and have a chance to make the case how they can serve the district. And it's my honor to serve the district. I have a lot of great people, great supporters, and I'm very, very appreciative for all faith they had in me, and I will never let them down, and we'll still fight some good fights.
Thank you so much for the time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
All right, Congresswoman Spartz there with our Kristen Eskow. She spoke there about Title 42 expiring, along with the federal government's other COVID emergency measures. And certainly the situation at the border has been top of mind in recent days. Some of those concerns lawmakers have raised have centered on the surge in fentanyl overdoses and the often deadly results. This week, our Michael Van Scoik spoke with federal authorities about the impact here in Indiana.
Fentanyl is no stranger across the U.S. As the opioid epidemic persists, the DEA says the drug has flooded many communities in the last few years.
Fentanyl is the most dangerous drug I've ever seen through my career with DEA.
DEA Assistant Special Agent in Charge Michael Gannon says the agency seized more than 50 million fake pills laced with fentanyl last year.
6 out of every 10 had a potential fatal dosage unit, so just staggering numbers.
Experts say what makes the drug so dangerous is how little can kill a person. It's often laced in anything from Adderall to meth.
The fentanyl kills, and it is an extremely powerful opioid that leads to overdose with just as little as sometimes the tip of a pencil.
Here in Marion County, the DEA says a majority of 2021 overdoses involved fentanyl.
There was 826 overdose deaths. Of them that were fentanyl or opioid related, there were 641 of them.
Nationwide, more than 1,500 minors died from the drug in 2021. That's up more than 30 times the number in 2013. Gannon says parents need to share a now crucial message with their kids.
If you run the risk of getting drugs from a drug dealer, or you're utilizing social media to get drugs, or from someone that you don't know, you're risking your life.
All right, that was Michael Van Scoik reporting. You heard part of our interview there with U.S. Attorney Zachary Myers. Here's more of what he told us about the fentanyl crisis and the impact of these drugs coming into our country through several different avenues.
What's happening is these chemical manufacturers, typically in China, India, and other countries, are making what we call precursor chemicals. They are shipping in bulk these chemicals to super labs, primarily in Mexico. And there are two cartels, the Jalisco and the Sinaloa cartels, who run these super labs that take these precursor chemicals and turn them into fentanyl and methamphetamine. And the problem is, for us, they're making them in such volume, it is impossible for law enforcement, working alone, to catch it all as it comes across the border. If you've ever been down to the border and seen the streams of trucks and the volume that they're going through, it is impossible to search everything, whether it is by truck or plane or train, when there's money to be made and cartels who do not care about human life, then they're able to pump these drugs in to make their money and to be able to obtain firearms to engage in their crimes in the United States and Mexico and all over the world, then we're having to work to respond. What's different about fentanyl is not only is it so deadly, but it's so powerful because so little of it can kill you.
All right, coming up next on this week's edition of In Focus, we'll talk with our panel about Senator Todd Young's comments on former President Trump, and we'll talk about some of the endorsements being rolled out this week by Lieutenant Governor Suzanne Crouch in her bid to become Indiana's next governor. Stick around, we'll be right back after this.